Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a fun one for me because I haven't done a full face in a really long time. I usually kind of focus on eyes. I think the last face, like full face I did was several months ago. And today's video is actually one I posted the picture on my Instagram, and my friend here on YouTube, her channel is Fab and Chic Fine. She's such a sweetheart. This is her Instagram. She had requested I do the full face, and I think she had mentioned my skin looked particularly glowy that day. And the one thing that I did use was the Becca Backlight filter. So I am going to do a full face, and then I will zoom in when we get to the eyes because this is going to be a Valentine's look as well. I'm focusing on a very bright pink, and it's from this palette right here, the Too Faced Sugar Pop. If you don't have this, or it's limited edition, I can't remember, any bright pink is fine. I just used this shade right here called Bubblegum. So that one right there. But you can substitute any pink shade you want because that's really the only color. That one and Blackberry. It's like a deep purple. So you can substitute any colors if you don't have this palette. But we will get into eyes later. So for now, let's go ahead and get started with face. So I am going to start, and I've just moisturized, that's all I've done, and I did my eyebrows because it takes me a hot minute to get that done. So we're going to start with face, and I'm going to use the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. Let me get my mirror here. Alright, I'm just going to rub this all in. And I'll tell you right now, this video is going to be kind of like products are going to be all over the place. I've got high-end and drugstore, so I'm just kind of mixing and all of it together. I've got a new bronzer that I hauled that I wanted to try, and a few other little things here and there. So it's just a mix, not strictly drugstore, and it's not strictly high-end. So just substitute whatever products you have for what I'm using. Alright, I've got this all blended in pretty good. I've got my damp beauty blender here just in case, but I am going to use the new Pixi brush that I picked up the other day. And I'm going to be using my Maybelline Dream Velvet Foundation because that's what I was wearing when I took the picture, so I wanted to stick with that. So we're going to start with this. And I like to just do the one side of my face at a time because I don't know how quick it dries. I always just do half of my face. Okay. This is the Pixi Full Cover Foundation brush. So my thoughts on this brush are surprisingly pretty good. I think when I hauled it, I mentioned I wasn't sure if I would like it because it is small, and it did take longer than it normally does to apply my foundation, but it did apply it really evenly, and I don't have any brush strokes, which is nice. I see a little bit on my forehead, so I am just going to take my beauty blender and just kind of pounce it all over just to make sure it's all evenly blended. Alright, that is the face done. I like this foundation a lot. I think it's really, really true to what it says. It does feel very velvety and smooth, and it doesn't really feel like I'm wearing anything, and it sets really quickly. It's already dry. Sometimes I do a light dusting of powder, not always. I feel like with this foundation I don't really need to. With the L'Oreal Lumi Cushion, I feel like I need to set that because it stays pretty wet. But this one dries pretty good, and I don't really think I'm going to need too much powdering. I might powder a little bit on my forehead just to keep the foundation from going into my fine lines and stuff, but we will see how it goes later if we need to do that. Okay, next I'm going to take my Pixi Correcting Concentrate and Brightening Peach. I feel like I've been getting good sleep, but I've just noticed in the last couple of months I'm getting, like, especially on this side, a little bit darker under eye circle, and I don't know why that's happening, but I've been using this peachy colored corrector just under my concealer just to help hide those blue tones. And this is a It Cosmetics concealer brush. It's like the writing is completely worn off because I use it pretty often. Okay, next I'm going to take this Tarte concealer. It's the Amazonian Clay Waterproof. And I'm just putting this on the edges of my nose because it tends to get a little bit red. And this kind of fits in that crevice really nicely. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there. And I'll get my beauty blender. Okay. Next I'm going to take my Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer, and that's just going to be my under eye concealer and highlighter because it's in the shade Light Warm, so it is pretty bright. A little bit down my nose, Cupid's bow, chin, and a little bit on the forehead. What I love about this concealer is you only have to dip into it the one time and it covers all your highlighting points. So I feel like it lasts a pretty long time, and it is one of my favorite concealers. It's definitely been a repurchase, so I highly recommend it if you haven't tried it. It is really good. And I do bring the concealer up on my eyelid a little bit just to cancel any veining, and it kind of works as a primer for me. I have drier lids, so I don't really need a primer, so concealer works pretty well for that for me. But by all means, if you have oilier skin, definitely go ahead and prime your eyelids. Okay, my concealer is blended in. Now I'm going to go in with my Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I have the Sonia Kashuk one that I talk about all the time too, but I just wanted to use this one today. And I've got a little cosmetic sponge and I've loaded it up pretty generously, and I'm going to pack that under the lid, and I just bake with this because it is so finely milled. Okay, while that's baking, I'm going to take the Laura Mercier translucent powder. It's a little bit different, it has a little bit more of a slight banana tone to it. And I'm just going to take my Sonia Kashuk powder brush, and I'm just going to lightly dust that over my forehead where I put the concealer, and also make sure that this foundation doesn't sink into those fine lines up there. And I'll put a little bit down here. And I'm powdering a little bit all over because when I do my blush and contour, it all just kind of blends a little bit easier. So just use whatever your favorite face powder is. Alright, I'm going to let that bake for a few minutes, and then we will move on with the rest of the face. Alright, the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder has been setting for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and dust it away with my little e.l.f. powder brush. Okay, I'm going to start bronzing, and I'm going to use the new CoverGirl True Blend Bronzer. I just hauled this in my last video, so I wanted to give this a try. I'm going to use my NYX brush. It's number 02, which I believe is their powder brush. I like the way it's shaped. It's really good for bronzing, so I'm just going to get a little bit of this bronzer. I think everybody's different in this aspect. I like to bronze first and then contour. Some people like to contour first and then bronze, so it's really a preference. I don't think, in my opinion, it doesn't matter, but just whatever your preference is. But this is the way I like to do it. Okay, so there's the bronzer, and I know when I swatched it, it looked very, very shiny, and I didn't think I would like it, but I do like the way this is looking. It's not shimmery. It has a slight satin finish to it, but it's really, really pretty, and I really like it. So for a drugstore bronzer, I would definitely recommend this. I really do like it. Okay, for bronzer today, I'm going to use my Kat Von D Shade Light palette. And I typically contour with this shade right over here. I believe it is called? Okay, it's called Subconscious. So that's the one that I use. I've got my little NARS Ita brush that came in my Tahiti bronzer kit. I'm just going to contour. And I contour pretty much where I bronze, like top of the forehead. I don't feel like I have a big forehead. Maybe I do, but I don't feel like I do. But I still contour up there because that's where the sun would still hit. So I want it to kind of look natural all over. Well, as natural as a contour can, I guess. But I love contouring, and I was telling my aunt this, I think last year at Easter. She didn't know about contouring, and I told her, I said, well, it's like Spanx for your face because you can really sink in your cheeks and kind of hide the double chin, and I love contouring. I think that would be the one product I couldn't live without because it just changes my face so dramatically. And then I just take it right under the chin and I go along the jawline. I always do a little bit under the lip just to make it look a little bit more pouty, and a little on my nose. I don't feel like I have a lot to contour. My nose is pretty straight, but I feel like that color just kind of needs to be a little bit there as well, just to make it look a little bit more pulled together. So that's why I do it. I know some people do it for correction, but I just want it to all blend. Then I'm going to take the banana powder right in the center. I'm just going to dust a little bit of that on the nose to blend out the contour. And I can bring a little bit under the eyes while I'm here just to brighten it up a little bit more. Alright, next I'm going to take the translucent powder again, and I'm going to bake under my contour line. Again with my little cosmetic sponge. And I'm just going to pack that all along right under the contour. So I feel like it really cleans it up and keeps it from moving. And I go pretty ham with the contour because, or with the baking, because you want it to really sit there a while and sink in. And that's why I recommend the Coty Airspun powder. I should have used that, but this was just smaller and I just put it on my desk. But it works the exact same way, and if you're going to be using as much of the powder to bake like I am, you want to use something like the Coty Airspun because it's a lot more affordable and you get a lot more product. So that's a good alternative. I just happened to have that in front of me, so that's what I was using today. Okay, while it's baking, I'm going to finish the rest of my face makeup. I've got my Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector, and this one is Champagne Pop. And that's what that looks like. And I've just got a little Real Techniques brush that I use for it. It's called a setting brush. That's what I use for my highlight. So I'm just going to dust that on the cheek. And I like to bring it up a little bit over the brow, just kind of around that area. And then a little bit on the tip of the nose, and I bring it up just slightly. And then on the Cupid's bow. Next I'm going to go in with my blush, and I'm going to use the new Kat Von D Shade Light blush right here, and that is in Hansel and Gretel. And I'm going to use my Kat Von D Shade Light brush that comes in a little coffin case. Super cute. So this end is labeled shades, so that's the side I'm going to use for the deeper blush. Let me pull this out. Okay. So I'm going to take the shade side and put it in the shade side of the blush. And I'm just going to run that along the contour line, but I'm keeping it kind of further back. Same thing on the other side. And you can see it's not super pigmented. That's why I like it, because you can really go hard with it and it doesn't look like a clown. Then I'm going to take the other side of the brush, and this says light, And I'm going to dip that into the light side of the pan and put that on my cheeks. Alright, so there's the face done. Okay, this baking has been on long enough, so I'm just going to dust that away. Alright, so now the face is done. I like to go in with either MAC Fix Plus or, like I've said 100 times now, your own DIY version of it. I like to spray this all over just to settle down the powders and make it all kind of meld together. So I'm going to do that. Okay, and just fan it away. And I'm going to let that sink in for just a minute, and while it's doing that, I will go ahead and adjust the camera and zoom in, and we'll work on the eyeshadow. Alright, to get started, I'm going to use the Too Faced Natural Matte Palette. This is one of my favorite palettes to use. It's just full of a lot of warm colors. I'm going to start with this shade right here called Honey Butter. And as usual, I'm using my Makeup Forever 242 brush. This is my favorite blending brush. And I'm going to buff that into the crease. And I always do the transition shade a little bit higher because I kind of have a hooded lid and I want to open my eyes. So I always go a little bit higher. Okay, this is a good spot to go ahead and put the highlight shade on. I'm going to use this shade right here called Heaven. And I'm just going to highlight the brow bone with that. It is a matte shade, so it's not really making much of a difference. So I'm going to go to the Too Faced Sugar Pop. And in here, the shade right here called Rock Candy. I'm going to use that. I think it has a little bit of sheen to it. Yeah, so we're going to use that one. It's got a very subtle sheen, but it looks okay. Okay, next I'm going in with a smaller brush. This is the MAC 217. And I'm going to go into the shade right here called Chocolate Cookie. And this is going into the crease, but it's going just below the first transition shade because you want to deepen it up. Okay, I'm going to go back to my first brush and just kind of blend that out a little bit. Okay, next I'm going to go in with my NYX Jumbo pencil, and this is in the shade Milk. I'm just going to apply that to the lid. And then with my finger, I'm just going to tap it out. And this is just going to give us a nice bright base to put the pink shade on top. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bubblegum shade right here. And I'm going to load my brush up with the shadow, tap it off, so I've got it on the brush. And I'm just going to spray a little bit of the Fix Plus on there, just so I can get a nice bright pigment from it. And then start packing that all over the lid. If you are worried about fallout when you're doing your eyeshadows and your face is already done, go ahead and load up a bunch of powder under your eyes like I did earlier with the baking, and then the fallout will just kind of fall onto the powder, then it all brushes away. I didn't do that this time, but I think I will be okay. Okay, next I'm going to take my e.l.f. defining eye brush, and I've shown this in a few videos how it's angled. This is really great if you have hooded eyes because that slight angle makes it a little bit easier. Plus this brush is only $1 and it's super high quality. So I'm going to go into the shade right here called Blackberry. It's just like a deep matte purple. Like a really deep purple though. And I'm going to take it angled like this first, just to mark the outer V. It also helps with the wing eyeliner later. And then I turn it on its side to where the longer point is downward, and I'm just gonna go up into the crease. And then I turn it on its side again, bringing it over just a little bit. And then I'll go back to the 217 brush and make sure I'm blending it all seamlessly together. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Next, I'm going to take a small defining brush and the same brow bone shade, which was called Rock Candy from the Sugar Pop palette. And I'm just going to use that as my inner corner highlight. And I'm going to take a pencil brush and the shade Honey Butter that we used as the transition shade. I'm just going to sweep that on my lower lash line. And then with my MAC angled liner brush, I think it's brush number 208, I'm going to go back to Blackberry, that deep purple, and I'm going to run this under my lower lash line. And this is just staying where the lashes are, so it's about 2/3 of the way. And then with the pencil brush, I'm just going to make sure it's all blended. So that is pretty much the eye look done. I think the camera doesn't show quite how bright the pink really is, but it is a very bold pink. So all I'm going to do now is apply my tattoo liner from Kat Von D and Trooper, and then apply a mascara, and I'll go ahead and do my other eye off camera, and then we'll be back with the final look. That is the finished look. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me. I know this is a lot longer of a video than what I usually film. I try to keep them pretty condensed, as you know, short and sweet as I can. But since this was a request from a friend of mine here on YouTube and it involved the full face, it is a bit more lengthy. Hopefully you learned something from this or got a few ideas. As always, I am up for any suggestions that you have, whether it's to focus on a product or a particular look or anything like that. I definitely want to be interactive with each and every one of you guys. You are my friends, and I want this to be a friendship that goes back and forth, not just me talking to a camera. I want to talk to you guys and do the things that you want to see. So always feel free to leave those suggestions in the comment section. And thank you so much for stopping by. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.